Hey, y'all. Hey, we are live and direct from her power space. So excited you are here. You're going to have to tell me who's in the room, who's joining us. This conversation that we're going to have today, I am so excited about. We've been talking about doing it for like over a year, and we're finally making it happen. I am Michelle Talbert. Thank you for joining us today. We are having this conversation as part of our ongoing No Small Business Left Behind series, where we talk to different business owners and people who have great information for business owners like us. So if you're watching, please be sure to let StreamYard give them access. You can see where it says click on this to have StreamYard share your name, because otherwise it'll just show up as Facebook user. So be sure to let us know who you are when you're dropping comments, because we definitely want to interact with you. Again, my name is Michelle Talbert. I'm the founder of Her Power Moves. We are an organization to help women, especially small business owners, solopreneurs, side hustlers, entrepreneurs, like you got an idea you want to launch. And we actually help women connect, collaborate, and create cash flow unapologetically. And I'm coming to you live and direct from my co-working space here in Broward County, Florida, Her Power Space. We are a woman-forward, men-welcoming boutique co-working space, podcast, and the business event studio. So as you can see, I have on the t-shirt. This is the V-neck one, right? You can pick my brain after you pick your payment method. If you are interested in getting this t-shirt in any color of your choosing, you can head over to herpowermoves.com/merch, and I'll put that in the comments and on the ticker in a little while. So I am bringing up to the stage Christina Duren. She is the founder of Beautiful Brown Girls Brunch, formerly. And I just can't wait to have this conversation with her. She is amazing. You are definitely going to fall in love with her if you haven't already. And something tells me that with 51,000 best friends, you may already be in love with her. Let me just tell you a little bit about Christina. Christina is... here it is. She founded Beautiful Brown Girls in March of 2010. And over the last 11 years, it has blossomed into so much more than a brunch club, right? She's going to tell you the story of why she started it. But now it has 29 chapters and over 51,000 beautiful brown girl members nationwide, I think internationally. Each one is a sister circle, and she believes that Beautiful Brown Girls is proof of what can happen when you find your people, find your tribe, love them hard, y'all, okay? Not only can you bond over a delicious meal, but you can also become an agent for changing your community. Her members enjoy monthly, unique, and memorable experiences rooted in sisterhood, love, support, and they have access to a curated space to women of color to thrive through insightful articles, thoughtful conversations, and webinars that inspire Black women. Christina, welcome to No Small Business Left Behind Combos. How are you?
Thank you for having me. It's so interesting hearing your bio read while you're sitting here. You're like, I did all that.
I know, right? It's a little less morbid than somebody reading your obit, right? Yeah. But it's so true. It's like, wow, I did that. I actually typed it, but it's so weird to hear it said back to you, right? But you did that. Right. And before we get started, I want to say kudos to you, because I had the pleasure of getting to know you last year when you won a pitch competition, right? That I was moderating, hosted by the YWCA Women's Entrepreneurship 360 program. You won the entire pitch competition.
Yes. That was my very first pitch competition too. And I was just so nervous, and I was surprised to win, but you were an amazing instructor, and we had a great time. So
thank you so much. It was incredible, because I think, and we're going to go straight into this conversation. Hey, Jackie O'Nappy, I have to shout out. Okay, so Jackie O'Nappy lets me raid her accessories closet from time to time. She's like, Michelle, you need accessories, okay? And so Jackie is watching on her lunch break. Jackie, you see, she's a Sassy Jones fanatic. So she's like, put this on, right? So if I look cute, it's because of Jackie. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
So, talk about sort of, you had a desire for making some new friends in a new city. And then next thing you know, you're winning a pitch competition because your friends now became your business. So what happened? Like, you are the epitome of I am my own best client, right?
Well, yes, I am the client. You are absolutely right. So I lived in New York for a while, and I was born and raised here in Miami, but I was in New York for business and came back to South Florida. And a lot of my adult friendships were created back in New York. So now I find myself in a brand new city. Mind you, I'm also just had a baby. So I'm a new mom at that point too. And I asked myself once I got back here, kind of like, how do I go about now creating those friendships that I had back in New York here in Miami?
Right.
And when you think about it too, when you're of a certain age, 30 plus, it gets really awkward trying to find spaces that make sense for you and you feel comfortable also, you know, being your true self in. So that's the number one thing that pretty much prompted me into starting Beautiful Brown Girls. I thought about what was the thing that I did in New York that I loved the most with my friends that really resonated with me. And New York is all about brunch culture. Like they're going to brunch day every day.
I miss my brunch.
Yes. It's such a lively like city. So there's always movement, you know, because you're from New York. So I missed that, just having that here in South Florida. And I was like, well, a brunch is so easy because it's not networking. You're like, you're in a different mindset. You're thinking, I just want to hang out and meet some new people in a social environment. And that's the idea of how the brunch club came about. It was like, let's just have a brunch. We're going to sit and kiki with good girlfriends for the day and see who shows up and hopefully create bonds and connections among the attendees there.
So, and you know, most of us make our friends in adulthood at work, right? And depending on what your work environment is like, you may not like those people. So then it's like, okay, so now where do I make friends, right? And it's really hard to navigate that sort of balancing between Drake's no new friends and I'm grown with I'm lonely too, right?
And so, we need people. Sometimes we get into this isolation, especially now we're in COVID, but you forget how much you really need someone to support you at the end of the day.
And I want to actually take a moment because I'm going to out you a little bit. You're an introvert, right? Right? So even this conversation, y'all, did y'all hear me say we would talk about this for a year? And Jackie and Matthew is watching, and she is definitely our resident introvert, right? But she pushes herself outside of her comfort zone, as I'm assuming you did, Christina, then and now today with us. But you know, how do you make friends even when you're an introvert? That's even harder. So did you find that having online opportunities to, like, did you create a meetup? Was that how you sort of launched that first brunch club meeting?
So I myself was looking on Meetup to see how I could, you know, create friendships. I was looking through the groups to kind of see what resonated with me, what wasn't too networking, what was kind of a social, fun environment, but people who looked and talked like me. And I honestly couldn't find that on Meetup. So I said, well, let me try doing something that makes sense for me and starting the brunch club. It was definitely outside of my box, and I had to force myself. Because this takes intentional work when you're creating friendships. You have to be intentional in terms of saying, yes, I'm going to go out there, talk to people, make that decision to be that outgoing person at that time. So I was really pushing myself, but it's because I really wanted friends, honestly. So I said I have to go outside the box to get there, and that's when I created the meetup page. And the first meetup, I was just so nervous. I brought my aunt with me because I'm like, I need somebody to be with me.
Nobody shows up, right?
Her and I will have brunch together. And that first brunch is really what helped me to lower my guard because we have 15 ladies show up.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Deans from universities, attorneys, like just an array of Black women who were inspiring, social, fun. And I was like, wow, I would have never met these ladies if I had not pushed myself. And imagine how many other people are sitting there like, how can I do this without being awkward, but also knowing I'm going into a welcoming environment. So that's Birth the Brunch Club.
I love that. And Deborah said, find your tribe, right? I love that. Yeah, definitely missing New York so much. And with COVID, in terms of just being sort of isolated, there's a different connotation when you say I'm creating a friend circle, right? I'm creating friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Almost sounds oxymoronic, right? Because we feel like, oh, friendships just kind of happen organically. But I think that even in the friendships that may start, quote unquote, organically, you still need to be intentional about the respect you show one another and creating those bonds. So how did you sort of create that environment, knowing that this was all from creation? And then have that be something that became the ethos of the other women in the organization as it continued to grow to now over 51,000 members, right? That's a lot of culture to cultivate.
It is. It's all about setting the intention and tone. I knew I was going into it pure-hearted, wanting to create and cultivate the connections. Once we started growing, that energy that I was putting out, thankfully, we were receiving a lot of members who had that same energy. So they would see me come in, not knowing them, but being welcoming, saying, hey, they would take that as a cue, like, that's my permission now that I could do this same thing. So one thing we do with all of that, we talk with all the organizers in our different locations, is you are setting the tone. They are watching you to know what is next to do. And sometimes we do need permission to say, okay, I can do that because she did that. So we teach the setting the tone of being welcoming, showing how to be welcoming in terms of, going around, talking with everyone, connecting people based on interest. And that has been doubled in terms of the members and how they act.
So at what point did it go from I'm creating my own circle of girlfriends to I have 29 chapters and 51,000 women? Like what was the first step, right? Just literally the first step that made you say, was it we need another chapter? Was it that women were contacting you from other cities? How did that work?
That's a great question. So,
isn't it?
It's good because what happened, which blew my mind, the whole thing blew my mind. First brunch, my mind was blown. So we're now brunching every single month. We're putting up the photos because I want people to see that this is fun. Come out. That's our way of kind of like marketing ourselves. I had one of my close friends who when I lived in New York with. She moved from New York to LA.
Okay.
And she saw when I moved from New York to South Florida, I was cultivating and creating this sister circle for myself. And when she moved to LA, she called me and said, we need this in LA and I want to do it. And I was like, what? So then that made me kind of put my business hat on at that moment of like, okay, if we're going to expand this, I want this to be done correctly because the mission is all about bringing Black women together and creating sister circles and sister tribes. And I don't ever want to stray away from that, which we can easily do once we get into this commercial world and business world of things. So I created an operations manual. I said, this is how a beautiful brown girls brunch is run. I mean, there's a ton of different brunch events. You can go to brunch with your friends, but if you're coming to a beautiful brown girls brunch, this is the feeling I want them to feel. This is the way we are going to kind of outline everything. And that is how we were able to then begin expanding to other locations.
Now, had you had your logo and things like that already? Had you started at least down that path, or was it your friend came to you and it was like, oh, well, we just get together and brunch. Let me now put together the processes and a logo and get our intellectual property and all of that. How did that sort of all come into play?
That was from her prompt, literally. I was just having a great time, meeting new people, going to new restaurants. If it wasn't for that, I could have still been doing that today, just having a great time.
Right.
But what really stood out when she asked me was that there's a lot of people like me who are moving, transplants to different cities, or one other group that we see now within our member communities are a lot of ladies who are retiring, and their life is like starting over for them. And they're like, okay, now I'm ready, but I don't want to do this by myself. They're young, fun, and still want to socialize. How do I do that? And that is kind of how we were able to identify our audiences and then build from that.
What about Mean Girls?
They're there. But this is the thing. The environment you walk into at a beautiful brown girls brunch feels sacred. You know, you are walking into greatness.
Yeah.
You feel the love. So it's hard for the dark to shine in the light. The light overtakes the darkness.
That's so you repel it, right? Sometimes you don't even have to say a word. They will just automatically repel themselves because they know I don't fit here. This behavior doesn't work here. No one even has to tell me. I just know I don't feel right, like salt on their skin or something. Right?
100%. And that's why we have not, thankfully, knock on wood, have had many issues in terms of mean girls. But when you walk into an environment where 95% of the people are intentionally creating and cultivating connections, it's hard to screw that up. You're just like, okay, I'm out. So they just remove themselves in the end. But our goal is to love on everybody, because those coming in with those issues have, inner work that they need to work on as well too. And we try to focus on we do focus on the brown girl as a whole, because when you leave brunch, you are home by yourself. You got to be well within yourself. So we then added that aspect into Beautiful Brown Girls and cultivating a lot more self-care work.
And this is perfect segue, because again, even before COVID, you were so much more than brunch, right? So how did it sort of tell us, first of all, some of the programs that you started to put in place, right? Because even when I met you for the first time in person, I was like, I've watched y'all's Facebook Lives.
You did. It was on my heart because we have our location. So currently right now we're in 29 cities, one internationally in Tokyo. And we were servicing our members locally that could come to a brunch, but it was just tugging at my heart that there's so many more people that we can be really Black women that we can be speaking to and speaking into and growing together. So then I was like, well, let's meet them where they are. And a lot of them were on social media. So we started with seeing the growth in our Facebook pages, and that prompted us to say, let's try Facebook Live as a stream, because we're talking about a lot of conversations at brunch. We're talking about politics, our hair, et cetera, just things that are happening in our worlds as Black and brown people. And I really wanted to kind of amplify that voice and reach more and in an interactive discussion way. And let's really talk about the things that are happening around Black and brown people. And that then motivated us to start our Facebook live streams. Brown Versations is one of our shows where it's our conversation about all things Black and brown people related. It's an interactive discussion. We also have Brown Girl Boss, because I wanted to highlight, I was meeting women that blew my mind. I'm like, wow, you're CEO of what? You started what business? You did this? I'm like, we really need to share among each other to grow. So Brown Girl Boss came into play of let's really start collaborating and giving those tips and tricks so that the next woman can take and grow as well too.
Do you feel that you've taken some of the stigma out of loneliness, admitting loneliness? Because a lot of people don't like to admit that they're lonely, right? But a lot of us, no matter how connected we are socially online, still feel lonely.
Yeah, and we nowadays there's thought process of I don't need anyone. I can do
Right,
this by myself.
right.
And if this pandemic has not taught us anything else, is that we need each other
Yeah.
to stay sane. Even me as an introvert, I just missed hugging my friends. I
I
just
miss
missed
hugging. I
being able to
just said
breathe in
that
the
the other
same
day.
room. You know, I the pandemic in itself has shown us how isolating isolation is,
Yeah.
and how important it is to just stay in connection, whether that be in virtual world or in person world, safely, of course, with COVID. But having someone have your back gives you so much inspiration to move forward, because sometimes we also have an issue where we need that tribe to be our motivators. Sometimes we have put ourselves down so much in terms of inner talk that we need that tribe to say, no, girl, I got you. Let's
Right.
move forward, kind of thing.
Right, right. So, for me, I created Her Power Moves as a place because my community was saying, Michelle, we don't know how to do business. We don't know how to get access to these opportunities or these rooms, et cetera, right? So it was easy because I had a quote unquote subject matter that was entrepreneurship and it was for women. But your subject matter is friendship, right?
Yeah.
So, did you have any struggle internally? And there is no wrong answer. The truth is the truth. Did you have any internal struggle, or did you get any external pressure about monetizing friendship?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
happens is people see you bringing the people together, and that, all of these businesses nowadays are all community focused. So they think turn it into a business.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. I will say so Beautiful Brown Girls, this is our 11th year this year. I will
Mhm.
say the first 6 years, we made $0.
Right.
I still worked my 9 to 5. I was also, I think it's because I also was just holding on to the mission. I really wanted to like ingrain that intention to not just myself, but to the team, because the team wasn't getting paid either.
Right. It
Honestly,
was all volunteers,
it
right?
really was in the
Yeah.
beginning. And that, I feel like, not to say you need to struggle or anything, but it made the difference. And when we did decide to say, let's go to the next step, because expansion is needed and we need to be sustainable to scale up. So because we wanted more, we knew we needed to kind of go in a more business aspect of things. But everyone knew, even if we move forward money wise and money didn't come in, we would continue this. And
Okay.
that's what I loved about it in the end. But though they're of course, they see 51,000 people and say, why aren't you making tons of money? Because at the end of the day, these are human beings who are looking for friendships. And I want to make sure that part works first before we go
Right.
into anything else, kind of thing.
But do you foresee making it a bigger business than it is? Is that something that you want to start putting those pieces in place?
Yeah, so which is why I came to the YWCA, excuse me, 360 program, is because I knew that there was more. And to me, more is providing more value for our members. That's what I
Right.
look at as
Right.
more. So how can we partner with a company that is really providing value, whether that be resources, whether that just or money for expansion, or just being able to learn from a mentor. But that's how I kind of had to start looking at it in terms of more just people aren't necessarily taking advantage of you. And it's to you to say yes or no,
Yeah.
and what aligns with your brand. But always come back to your mission, always come back to your intention and knowing what that is. And that then helps us know who to align with to grow.
So I have a question for you, and I'm gonna load it a little bit. How do you feel about women's empowerment and women's empowerment groups? Do you have thoughts about that? Do you consider Beautiful Brown Girls, a women's empowerment community?
I have thoughts. I mean, it's now like the new token word, I guess. People
Right.
have
You've been in the trenches 11 years. That's why I'm asking you, because
yes.
it's popped up in the past 2 or 3 or two, right? 3. But you've been in the trenches. You've really put in work before that was even a term of women's empowerment. What is that, right?
Right. Overall, I understand, I appreciate that more people are trying to come on board and elevating women, Black women in general. I do hope at times that it is genuine, but I also take a step back and say, I know what I could do for my group, and let me amplify that because I know it is genuine as much as I can, and everything else, the cream rises to the top also. And you will see those groups that sometimes you're like iffy on come and go. And
Yeah.
I look at the sustainability of a lot of these women empowerment groups, and the cream does rise to the top. But I do say I focused on our group and just kind of amplified that voice because I feel like that's kind of the space that has resonated most with me.
And that's my next question. How should women evaluate the communities that they join? What are some good ways to know, is this the place for me?
Good question. A few things I would look at. I would look at the members. I start there. Are members interacting with each other? Are you seeing the sharing of information? Are you seeing the genuineness to want to share information as well too? My term I always tell our group is the members move the movement.
Ah,
So we start there and making sure that we have the right people within the group. So looking at those surround who are joining and what their intention is, gives you a good kind of inclination of how this is working. The other thing I would say is also looking at the C-suite or leaders of that group as well too, and just their day to day and how they're operating. Do you feel that they are approachable, or do you feel that the work that they are, it's a conversation and not just more so direct information to you? So I look at that too, like how can I talk with you? Do I feel relatable, like you're talking to me as well too? So
mhm.
just looking at the conversation in general of the content that is being given, is it relatable to you? Do you feel that it resonates with you? And kind of go from there in terms of staying with the group or not.
And for women who are interested in becoming leaders within your organization, how do you vet them? How does that work? Do they rise from the ranks? Do people come in and say, we don't have anybody in my city, I would just love to start one in my city? How does that work?
So each of our new organizers, they do have to start with applications. So we do have an application process that basically they tell us why they want to start a group in their area, what's their motivation behind it. I then have a phone call with them because I'm a big energy person.
Yeah,
I can tell when
yeah,
some just don't feel right. So we're
yeah.
going to have a good conversation. And it's not even a conversation necessarily about let's fully on talk about the role. Let's talk about you as a person.
Right, right,
What's your, because to start a group like this in your location, the intention of it has to be aligned with the mission, and we
right.
make that very clear. Once we do have someone we feel comfortable with, we do have them sign commitment letters basically saying, I understand the mission, I understand the values, I'm here to align to that. So everything ties back to the mission. And then thankfully, now that we have so many efficient processes in place, we're able to kind of give them an onboarding that sets them up for success. And we've had our oldest organizer that's been on, she's been on for about just 10 years, our LA
That's
organizer.
incredible. Now, is
And
that
that
your
is,
friend from Cali or is that a
no,
different organizer? See, yeah, I
that's a
love it.
different organizer. She
Yeah,
came on a year after my friend from Cali started it, and she's been on since then. And that is a testament to, I feel like, the process, the mission, the members, the actual connections. She's found her sister circle tribe and believes in it. I found my sister circle tribe and believe
yeah.
in it. I understand that what we're doing, the output is amazing. So we're gonna keep grinding and getting the message out there.
I am like almost teary. Like Jackie said, I love this convo, loving this convo. And the reason I'm so teary, number one, I've watched your growth, right? Before we met, and then now even since we met, but because I love the love.
Yeah.
I truly am a proponent that we can all really win. We can all get along if we do the work. It's not
Yeah.
easy though, right? Because dealing with humans, period, can be exhausting and very challenging. And I just love that you said, I was lonely, I found friends, I made friends, but guess what? From the business side, hey, let's put these standard operating procedures in place. Let's get these onboarding procedures in place. Hey, Natasha, let's get things in place to operate as a business so that the structure actually provides, I believe, safety and security as well for your members. They feel like this is not a fly-by-night organization. I'm part of something. We're building together, right?
And we've had members even go city to city. And that was the idea. Is if you were in a South Florida brunch and you go to Tampa or you go to California and attend a brunch, we want to or Tokyo, and attended a brunch, you will feel the same love. Like I wanted them to walk away feeling the same love.
I love that. I love that. Ah, thank you so much. This is so great. To any of you, yes, Tanya, of course, you met Tanya. Tanya loves systems. Tanya, signal partners. Yes, structure it. Of course, that's what she's going to say. Right? But do you have any thoughts for people? And I'm going to take notes for her power moves right here, right? As we grow, because we are walking in your footsteps. And it's amazing what you've done and the processes you've put in place. But from a business perspective, for those who are watching, who are interested in expanding their footprint of what they do, whatever that looks like, whether that's bringing on board staff, whether that's increasing the customers they serve, right? This is all community. It's just a matter of their title might be different. It's a staffer, it's a contractor, it's a customer, but it's still your community for your business, right? So what are some words of wisdom that you have for people who are looking to create community in their business?
The first way we were able to really grow in community was through social media. Don't be afraid of social media. That's my first rule. People, in the business of people are nosy. If that's the right way to say it.
So you got to exploit the nosiness. Nothing wrong with that.
People are searching more and more online now. That's the politically correct way to say it. What we saw was, as we started doing our first few brunches, I would post the photos on our social media page at the time. People will view the photos because they, as we know in Black terms, we always like, who all over there? I want to see who all showing up. That is the one low-bearing fruit that we can snatch down, because they're like, okay, they look normal.
Yeah, okay. I'll go to the next one.
Exactly. So that resonated with people. The visual aspect. People want to know more about you.
And FOMO, right? Because y'all look like you're having fun. So then it's like, dagnabbit, I'm not going to miss the next one. I'm going to be there.
Exactly. So we embraced social media immediately, where we began to post as much as we can in terms of not just our images, but also we will find content around the web that resonated with our messaging of sisterhood. So just posting that kind of stuff as well, too, is giving people, viewers and followers, a better understanding of what we were about. And we were able to grow very quickly just through social media. So I would say, don't be afraid of social media, but hone in on your message and who you're talking to. And that will help with growth immediately, because people are nosy. The second thing for us, of course, was the efficient processes. But I also had to bring in, because I'm a sole founder, I do not know. So I always brought in people who would basically help and strengthen my weaknesses. I was not good in processes from the beginning. What does that even look like to write an operations manual? So I did a lot of research on my behalf of just finding experts in that field, finding webinars I could attend at the time, finding groups like YWCA that really helped me hone in on what the business was to begin with. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know, and find ways to know. And it may not always be free ways.
Right. You pay. It's okay. It's an investment. And again, this goes back to the monetization question. Look, you are building a business and it is okay to monetize. You do have expenses. And while you have a pure-hearted mission, it is okay to monetize a pure-hearted mission. There's nothing wrong with that. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to say this is an investment. I'm investing in marketing. I'm investing in systems. I'm investing in the success and bringing more value to my community.
100%. And because I know there's more people who look like me, who need their tribe. So as much as I was so connected to like keeping that sacred, I was also kind of doing a disservice at a little bit of not growing and reaching all of those other people.
You were doing a disservice by not growing. Go ahead, say that again. I think people really need to understand that.
Yeah, when you begin to get so you have your tribe, you forget sometimes that there's so many others that look like you that are looking for that. So I was so scared to grow, thinking the commercialization of it would be to the detriment of it. I had to kind of do a mind shift of, I need to reach more people like myself. And to do that, that is going to mean growing. That is going to mean partnerships. That's going to mean sponsorships and advertisers with commercial businesses and things like that. And that was a heart-to-heart talk I had to have with myself of, we need to grow because there's more people like me.
Right. Right. And do you have any other tips for folks looking to grow their community commercially while keeping pure of their mission?
I would say what I do on a daily basis, I'm consistently looking through brands myself on social media. I'm looking at what resonates with me in terms of what are Black women talking about? Hair care, skin care, we're growing businesses, and being able to connect with other companies that are aligned with that same mission. I'm consistently looking through other similar communities to myself and what they're doing. Like, it's okay to, I'm not necessarily saying to reinvent the wheel, but to be able to learn from others is okay. And then do that, what works best for your group.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love is that you hired people to host because you are an introvert. She's like, I ain't trying to host nobody's nothing. I will not be on the microphone. I will not be on camera. Michelle, you're lucky you got me for like 30 minutes. I'm about to be done now. Right? But you took the time to say, but our community needs these shows. We need conversations, right? We need Girl Boss. We need to have someone in front of the camera who that is their strength. So strengths aren't only to be hired because of systems and things like that. You can literally hire people to interact and interface with your clients, your customers, and your customer base if you are not in that, if that's not a strength of yours. And the point is to keep them honest by vetting them and having your systems and having your mission and keeping that at the forefront. So as we wrap up, does anyone have any other questions? They've been like bigging up and saying they love the conversation. You guys can see going across the screen, you can learn more about joining Beautiful Brown Girls. And what do you think is on the horizon for your community?
On the horizon for our community is taking it a bit more mobile. And we are taking the next step into taking our community into an app that will be able to interact and find new friends from your fingertips.
I love it.
So that is the next step of just getting beautiful brown girls in front of more Black women that need this.
I love it. I love it. Christina, thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom and turn your camera on and face the world. because no one can tell this story like you can tell this
Thank
story.
you.
So I appreciate you coming to tell this story and share your inspiration. You guys definitely, if you're watching this on a replay, drop us comments. Be sure to head over to members.beautifulbrowngirls.com if you want to learn more about the organization. Even though we are in COVID, they are still going very strong and providing support for their girlfriends in their organization. They're Beautiful Brown Girls. Thank y'all for joining. Again, you can get the new drop. All right, you can pick my brain after you pick the payment method, and we also have you can pick my brain after that invoice is paid, right? So you can get that in whatever colors and neckline. I got the V-neck on. Jackie, thank you for the baubles. I do appreciate your Sassy Jones love, and I do appreciate you, Christina. All right, everybody, I'll see y'all again soon. Bye.